Skizzilli's Strange Endeavours. Chapter 1. The HIV. Skizzilli sat on an old wooden bench, looking aimlessly at the clock mounted on the wall whilst tapping his foot on the ground in anticipation. He looked up at the mostly grey-coloured ceiling with occasional dots of white. His head sprung up as ding echoed across his waiting room, followed by a screen flashing the number 903. Skizzilli looked down in his hands to see a small note bearing the same number. "I guess this is my cue," he spoke. He walked up to the sliding iron doors and entered an elevator. He formed his hand into a fist and mashed all the buttons on the elevator. The door closed and the elevator began to move. He went up and down through the whole building before being detained by security. He was led into a room where there sat a desk occupied by a man in a suit. "I see you took your time coming here, Skizzilli." The man folded his hands as he spoke, asserting his Sigma male ultra-dominance over Skizzilli. He folded his hands as he verbally mutilated Skizzilli with his vile words. "You know, I've worked here for 26 years, and I've never seen anyone fail to navigate to the interview room." Skizzilli was appalled by his evil words. He took a deep breath before verbally fighting back. His voice cracked mid-sentence as he began to sob. He quickly ran out of the room with tears in his eyes. Reaching the elevator, he pressed the button for the ground floor and made a run for it, eventually reaching a door covered in Garfield posters and bright flashing LED lights. He gave the door a knock before turning the handle to unlock it. He was instantly greeted by a tennis ball sent hurtling towards him. He cowered like a pussy and had it hit him in the stomach, knocking the air out of him and pushing him to the ground. "Hey man, could you pick up my ball?" Skizzilli looked ahead to see a man wearing a Garfield branded hoodie and sweatpants. Around his neck, he wore a necklace made up of coins tied around a rubber band. The room looked very different from the boring office look of the outside HIV headquarters. His room was decorated in Christmas lights. 4 desks sat on the floor, with each their own wacky design. The desk with the bald man has Garfield posters plastered all over it. Skizzilli looked around the room to see the other desks. One was decorated with old rifles, seemingly glued to the table with no regard for functionality. Another had only one table leg, being supported by only 5 empty glass bottles of Danish Pilsner. The last one, a bit away from the others, had no decorations at all. Instead, Skizzilli could see a man wearing tattered rags, sitting on top of the desk, constantly phasing in and out of the desk. "Hey, pick up my ball!" The ball man shouted at Skizzilli, who was now getting a bit angry at the man's remarks. He whipped his hand out to the side and a figure leapt out from him. It grabbed the ball and looked at the man with the ball. "You'll get your ball back, all right?" Skizzilli somehow made a verbal typo. The figure from behind him gave off an intense sound of ticking as it threw the ball at the man behind the desk. He got his hand out to catch it until the ball face shifted behind the man and hit him in the noggin. "What the fuck?" he screamed as the ball impacted. No, I mustn't mess around too much." He shook his head and started walking towards Skizzilli, now cowering in fear on the ground. He reached his hand out to him and introduced himself. "Hey, I'm Despacito. The guy over there with the beer bottles is Got. The guy with the weird rifle obsession is Hunter. And that guy over there is, well, the easiest explanation would be calling him a ghost. I can hear you, you know." A distorted voice emanated from the back of the room. "That's Tolkien. He's a man trapped inside of his own stand, invisible to non-stand users, unable to touch anything, and pretty much immortal. In fact, he claims to be over 300 years old, making him a prime source for information. Despacito continued. You'll get your very own desk as soon as we get one. I look forward to working with you. Skizzilli, was it?